Hello, and welcome back to Pass the Torch, Legacies in Jewelry. My name is Naja DeSavandiste, and you guys are in for an absolute treat today. We have one of my favorite industry people on the podcast. This is the episode with Kimberly Collins. Kimberly is my first non-bench jeweler guest, but I also wanted to focus on other aspects of the industry in this podcast, and she is a gem dealer of 30 years. She knows what she is talking about. She is an epicenter for information. She is a quality standard, and she's just also a lovely person. So please help me welcome Kimberly Collins to the podcast. I'm very excited for this conversation. This one means a lot to me, and I hope you enjoy. Here it is. Kimberly Collins, thank you so much for joining today. I adore you. You and I got to meet at the Hard Rock Summit in Denver, Colorado last year. You have been in the industry for 30 years. Can you kind of start out and explain to people what you do?
Well, at the heart, I'm a gem dealer. That's how I got into the business. I started as a colored stone dealer selling East African gemstones. That's where I started. I was pretty young and naive and hopped on the plane and spent a bunch of time in Kenya and Tanzania on my own in my early 20s. Didn't really know the dangers or the risks that it involved, but it has led me to an unbelievable 30-year career in this industry. And I can't even believe it's 30 years. Like, really, it's time warp.
You are so fun. You are such a joy. You bring so much life to so many people's lives.
Thank you.
You are the kind of queen of color. Can you talk to me a little bit? Because just gem dealing in general is very broad. You very specifically specialize in color. Can you talk to me a little bit about how that kind of came to be?
So that definitely evolved over years of experience, knowledge, travel, all those things culminating. I resonate with color myself. My mom is an artist. She is a professional artist. She's also an interior designer. And actually, this painting she did behind me, that's one of my mom's pieces. But as a kid, just growing up, I always was drawn to color. My mom talked about color. And when we got dressed, I mean, you'll see me, I wear a lot of vibrant colors myself because my mom always dressed us in pretty colors and all of that. So I was already naturally predispositioned to enjoy color. My parents were also very into nature. We didn't really take any lavish trips growing up, but we camped a lot. We loved the mountains, the water. So a lot of those nature colors, I think, resonate with me, and contrasts of color and sunsets. I think when you grow up appreciating that and having it pointed out to you more, you see color in everything, maybe. And I'm kind of just flowing with this, but I think this is where I got my eye for color. And I'm going to layer that with something that I thought about before we got on this interview is truly for me, when it comes to gemstones, there's really not an ugly color. There are a lot of colors that people would say, ugh, I'd never wear that. But when you have great faceting, even if it's a color that's like a greenish, browny, funky color, if it's faceted and it sparkles and scintillates, it's still so pretty. And you really still can appreciate it. And so I think that's what I find in every gem I come across. I went from selling the East African gems, the beautiful tanzanite colors and savarite and chrome tourmaline and rhodolite garnet and spessartite, those kind of colors. So those are quite primary for the most part. And then I saw peridot, some of the Pakistani material, and blue zircon and high refractive index of spinel. Spinel's one that blew my mind. And I love spinel. And they sucked me in. And I wanted to know more. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to learn about their durability and wearability and all that stuff. And I think that's kind of how I got into buying the next and getting into and learning about the next gemstone I carried.
Spinels are my favorite gemstone by a leap and a mile, and
really?
So very people know about. Oh yeah.
I love them. When you see your first I saw a Jedi red pink spinel, and seriously, my brain nearly exploded. I was like, what the heck is that? It's so pretty. You just wanted to almost eat it. It was so pretty. I liken it to Jolly Rancher or hard candy. It's just so pretty. You can stare at it all day long. That's what sucked me into. And the brilliance that goes along with the spinel, that sparkle. Oh my
Right. Well, if my understanding is correct, the spinel's refractory is most similar to a diamond. And so it sparkles
Correct.
like a diamond, but it doesn't have the hardness. But it makes for a great alternative gemstone for an engagement ring, or if
So
you
much.
know, really sparkly earrings. I just love it. And to go back to your point about, growing up with artist parents, I also grew up with artist parents. And
You
I
did?
think that I did. I did.
That's
I have a
awesome.
very elaborate artist background, but I think when you're exposed to color theory really early on, it informs so much of what you do later in life. And I think that that's maybe what you were initially referencing.
I think so, but it makes sense. I mean, my mom's who taught me my eye for color, but it didn't have to do with gemstones. It had to do with all other things. And so when you translate that over to gemstones, you already come into the industry with that eye and you know what you're looking at. And, pink sapphire, I don't know why that's, I could see the little more dull pink and I could see that vibrancy in one that has maybe a hint of purple in the background that creates a fuchsia color, and it
Right.
pops a little more than the other one. And you're able to see the purple in there. And people are like, there's no purple in there. Oh yeah, there is a purple secondary. You can, and I knew how to identify that. And so anyway.
I love it. And a lot of people don't know that the big juicy gemstone like right in the center of the crown of England, I don't know the formal
Crown
term for it,
jewels. Yeah,
but it was thought to be a ruby
it
for
was.
so many years, and it's actually a spinel, and
I
the two
know.
are very close and they're easily mixed up. So you have developed an eye that is so keen for these beautiful gemstones. Can you talk to me a little bit about how, so for those who are not in the industry, basically me as a bench jeweler or a company doesn't go out necessarily and like go to the mines and get the gemstones. There's an
Right.
individual like Kimberly who works to source the correct material and sometimes be the one to cut it or send it to a cutting facility. And then we go to Kimberly to let her know what we're looking for, and she goes and she sources the right material for us.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me a little bit about how your business is structured?
I do two things. I'm going to go from the gem dealer side because we're starting with that and we haven't gotten into my jewelry line, but I'm not a cutter. I have an eye for cutting. I prefer to buy from my sources that I trust, and I prefer to buy it already faceted or buy something that isn't quite where I want it and have one of my cutters facet it a little better.
Right.
So, relationships are everything. As I know for 30 years in this industry, if you don't have trust in the people that you work with, really, you don't have anything. And it's like that in any relationship, whether it's a friendship, a marriage, but it's very similar. That trust, if it gets broken, it's very difficult to build it back. So that being said, the relationships that I have, the suppliers that I have, I work with some people I met the first couple years in this business. I still work with them. And it's because we have a friendship, we have a trust. I'm a very relationship based businesswoman, whether it be with my clients or my suppliers. I care about every aspect. With my clients, I know about their families and they know about mine. And same thing with my suppliers and the miners that I've worked with, my suppliers everywhere around the world that I've worked with. And that supply chain and that trust is the most important thing in a relationship and in the integrity of being a good gem dealer, in my opinion.
Right. And you're the president of American Gem Trade Association, which is also known as AGTA. Can you tell me a little bit about that organization and how that helps uphold ethics standards?
Yes. Well, actually, as of February 10th, I am now officially the past president after serving 3 years.
Oh,
So from 2022 to 25, I was the president, and it was a huge honor. I was the second elected female president in 42 years when I stepped up. AGTA to me is probably one of the most forward thinking associations in our industry that's been around now for 44 years. I think this year made 44 years. And it's an association that got built by what we call firm members. Those are the dealers that are going overseas and sourcing from countries all over the world, bringing the stones back to supply jewelers, designers, manufacturers, anybody that wants a loose colored gemstone. Over time, it expanded to include affiliate members those are the designers that have been able to join, that also follow along with our ethics and our mission statement to provide transparency in the industry, to have just a beautiful supply chain from mine all the way to market. And I am so proud to be a member of AGTA because truly that association, we are pioneers in our space. Whereas today, everybody's talking about ethical this and that. And I'm not undermining that word, but that word has been abused in our industry tremendously. And before that was the cool buzzword to use, sustainable, ethical, all these responsible. AGTA was doing it. AGTA formed because it was a bunch of gem dealers that cared about the supply chain and cared about the people that provided us with our gems, that helped us feed our families and help make beautiful things and put them out into the world. And I don't think AGTA gets enough acknowledgement for being the one to start that. Our association is made up of the most diverse group of people. We don't discriminate. You can look at AGTA. We are seriously the most beautiful melting pot of people from around the world that are all US based, because you have to be a US or Canadian based business. So many different people. It's grown over the years. We have more people applying because I think they're in alignment with what we do. And this is a great thing a lot of people don't realize. We have an ethics and grievance committee put together because if people are screwing up, I mean, some people talk about self-policing, which I think if you're claiming to be this and that, and you're saying you're your only judge, I think that's a setup for some problems. If you do something outside of the code of ethics and outside of alignment with AGTA's mission, you're going to get caught. You are. That's part of the integrity of this association. I know my own personal ethics and integrity. I know who I am as a businesswoman, and I'm not going to try and make you be just like me or anybody else. But I also know that I signed up with this association because my beliefs are in alignment of what AGTA does that I believe is good in the industry and in the world for that matter. In 1995, November of 95 is when I started my business. I founded my business. I was in San Francisco and got my business license, and really didn't know what I was doing. I was, had an opportunity to go to Africa and meet with a family that I would then buy gems from. But I needed to know how to learn more. Nobody was on the internet yet. There was a library and there was asking questions in local colleges, which is one of the ways I found out about what AGTA is. And I took a course at College of Marin in Marin County and had this amazing lady be the instructor. And she's also who introduced me to the spinel. But she said, if you're going to do anything to learn about color in this industry, and this, keep in mind, this is end of 95, beginning of 96. She said, if you're going to do anything, you have to attend the AGTA Gem Fair in Tucson. You have to go to AGTA. And I did. I went for my first time in 1996 as a buyer. And I will never, ever forget the feeling. And I truly, I'm honestly saying, I really didn't know what I was getting into. And I stood on that upstairs floor looking down at the gem hall floor. And I still remember the sparkles. Some of these booths have the trays of the gems and and I'm standing up there and you can see the scintillation of all the gems on the floor. And I was seriously, it was like a visceral thing that went head to toe. And I'm like, oh my God, that is so cool. That's so pretty. And I couldn't wait to get down there. And I took the time to go literally every single aisle, every booth. I looked at everything and it was a great experience. And I left there really intimidated. But the week after that is when I stepped on the plane and flew to Nairobi, to Kenya. And I lived with an Indian family in Nairobi for a couple months, and I learned the Tanzanite business. Boy, once I went to Africa and realized where they came from, because back in the mid 90s, people aren't going to the mines. It's like a chic thing now in this generation. In the last 10, 20 years, people are like, I'm doing my mine trip. And that's cool. I think it's great. I think it provides way more transparency. But Then nobody was doing it. It was not a cool thing. It was a scary thing.
Yeah.
And once you do encounter that, when it's really in the wild without one of these tour groups or something, people are doing these mass groups where they're bringing people, it's kind of cushy. There's a lot of stuff that gets really ugly when you go over there. I've gotten really sick. I've had all kinds of crazy things happen to me, but I still wouldn't trade it. I'm so proud of my progress and my process in this industry.
This is why I adore you. You're such a lover of the craft. You are a true aficionado for the industry. You're just so genuine in your love and respect for the art form. In 2008, you started your own business. You founded Kimberly Collins Colored Gems. What motivated you to start your own company?
Okay, so here's the facts. It's a little confusing. I started my own business in November of 1995. I got into the business, went to Tucson. I had my company. I met somebody in the industry and got married in 98 and merged my new company with them. And I had a business with my now ex-husband for over 10 years, or just about 10 years. And so 2008 marks a fresh beginning for me. I had just recently gone through a divorce and I had my two little boys. So Kimberly Collins Colored Gems was me going back out on my own. I was on my own. I merged and became Collins and Collins. And that was almost 10 years. A lot of people in the industry knew me at that time with that name. And then I went out on my own as Kimberly Collins in 2008.
And I just want to compliment you on your sons, or the one that I have met. You have raised gentlemen.
Thank you. That's my biggest accomplishment, my biggest and most important accomplishment, those two boys.
Yeah, Brady Collins is very often with his mom, Kimberly, at the trade shows, and they're wonderful people. If you see them, please go up and introduce yourselves and talk to them.
You're going to make Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, I'm so proud. I never ever thought he'd be interested in working with me, like I didn't. And my youngest is 20. He's still in college. He did Vegas for the first time with us last year. I think it was a mind-blowing experience doing a trade show for like his first thing. Yeah, it's just, they're my best gems of all. So
Oh, that's so sweet. Talk to me a little bit about your jewelry line. We talked about the gem side. You are wearing some of your beautiful pieces. I am obsessed with your sapphire collection at large. You do a couple different things with a couple different sapphires. You're wearing one of your sapphire tennis necklaces. Tell me more.
So this has been super fun, like these ombre blues to greens. I'm really enjoying this line that I've done recently, just because doesn't it look like water? It looks like the depths of the ocean or something. I don't know. I'm
it's
a
the
blue
most
green
magical piece. Kimberly was generous enough to let me wear a rainbow version.
Oh, God,
and
you wore it so well.
It's just in person, it's just fantastic. Obviously, it looks good on camera, but in person, these just have an impact. Like, not all jewelry has impact. These have impact, and I'm obsessed with them.
Well, thank you so much. I really do believe it's because of the stones, and I'm giving the gems the credit and the cutter, but my whole line is about the gemstone. Some people design a line and they have to fit the gemstone into their great designs, and nothing against them. I don't consider myself actually a designer like that. I don't consider myself, I mean, I know so many high level, amazing designers that work the metal in a certain ways, and you're one of them. But I don't have that knowledge. But what I do have knowledge of is how to make a gem look beautiful in a setting. And I don't try and overwork the setting. I don't try to compete with these designers that do amazing work. I just try to provide a vessel to showcase the gem. And I guess that is what people get out of my jewelry. I mean, this is 18 karat. It's beautifully made. But as you can see, it's really about the gemstones. It's not really about the gold. And the earrings the same. And most of my line, I think I have my emerald necklace, my engagement ring, but everything I have is really about the stone. And that's my line. When you see my whole line and you look at the colors, that's really what it's about, more than the metal. I love using 18 karat just because I like the richness of the color. I use diamonds as accents. Yes, natural diamonds only, but everything I do is about color. So, and And my line started out of the encouragement from a lot of my jewelry stores that would work with me as they buy stones from me. And that's how it started years ago. And it was simultaneously, it was around the time of my divorce. So I didn't have a lot of support of my ex-husband for doing jewelry, and that was fine because it blossomed once I went through my divorce and was able to just make my own decisions and launch it. And, in that way also differentiate from what he was doing. And it's just was so well received instantaneously. And it's only grown over the years. And I've really, really enjoyed it. So I'm so
That's
happy you
wonderful.
tried on that rainbow necklace. It looks so stunning on you. Oh my God. I have a picture of you in it. I think you posted it, right? It
I
was
did.
so
I think
pretty.
I was wearing a lot of jewelry that day, and I think I did a
Yeah.
jewelry tour that's still up on my Instagram. For those who are just listening to this podcast, what I will do is I will have Kimberly send me a few photos of these pieces that we're talking about, and you can go to the podcast Instagram, Pass the Torch Jewelers, and they will be posted there so you can reference and see what we're talking about. Otherwise, you can jump on YouTube and see us talking and our faces and the jewelry as we're talking about them.
Oh,
So
good. Yeah.
so obviously now you're kind of in this like rainbow slash ombre sapphire world. I know that sourcing those is a beast and going through, the
Yeah.
cutting process for all of that. Originally, before that, what predated the sapphire journey was a ring called the Yum Drop. You really kind of were known in many circles for that ring as one of your notable designs. What inspired this piece, and how do you kind of like approach new designs now that you have kind of this repertoire of things that you have created over time?
I love my Yum Drop collection. And yes, it started with the rings, and then we added, I kind of call the little stud earrings I do Yum Drops. And they're basically all about the gem with just a beautiful satin finish of gold around them. Very simple, let you let you be your own designer. They're pieces that allow the wearer to stack them and do whatever they want. The Yum Drop collection started because I still do go on the road a lot. And I felt there was a huge lack in good birthstone fun jewelry in colored gems. I'd see the same look in the same stores repeated over and over throughout the United States. You'd take a birthstone, a little halo of diamonds, simple, but blah, it was boring. Do you know what I mean? The gems weren't great. I get it. Like, it was a placeholder for a birthstone, but I felt that there was such an easy way to provide jewelry that could give the wearer an expression of their own creativity, right? So the Yum Drops are using a stone usually about 0.50, so half carat, up to right under a full carat. I try to keep the stones under 1 carat. So they're smaller stones, but you can stack multiples. I've had people stack 5, 3 is usually the most common, but even 2 look cute together. There's so many opportunities. Some people have used them for class rings, for birthstone rings, for their own individual mother's rings stack, which takes mother's jewelry to a whole nother elevated level and fun. Because whether the mother's picking them out herself, or this is my favorite story, Dad brought his 3 kids into the store and let them each pick their own Yum Drop of their birthstone and give it to their mom on Mother's Day. So each kid gave a
Oh, that's
ring, and
darling.
it's so cute. And it's my favorite story of the Yum Drops because she opened every ring individually, and it's like representative of each kid, and it's really fun. And the Yum Drops you can stack with little eternity band. It just makes, my joke is, okay, and if the kid is being bad, you take off his ring today and only wear the good kids. It just makes it fun and funny. And the other thing about the ring is it gets people coming back into the store to see if there are any other ones they need for their stack, right? It makes it a fun and playful experience in the store. And they're not overly expensive. They're made with beautiful gemstones and 18 karat gold, timeless things that hold their value. And they can be passed down through the family, but they're also very meaningful. And so I liked the whole feeling of the Yum Drop ring collection. And already I'd been doing my bezel studs, which again, it's just taking a super simple stone and wrapping it in gold and laying it flush on your ear. But it's people have so much fun with them and playful colors, and people do the ear stacks all the way up with different colors. It just makes it so fun. So that's
Well,
how
and
it was inspired. And I do every birthstone. It's an educational experience too, because like January, people think it's only red garnet, and they come, they're like, oh, but I have a ruby birthstone and the red garnet. They look, but you could do it with the orange garnet or the green garnet with your ruby. Look at that. And then people are like, oh my gosh, I never knew there was an orange garnet. I never knew there was a Savorite garnet. So it's an educational experience at the same time. It makes it super fun.
well, that's actually how I even discovered spinels. I had no idea what spinels were, and then I married my husband, and he's an August baby, and spinels are an alternative to August birthstones, which are traditionally peridot. And he
Yep.
was looking at me, and he goes, "That looks like piss." Excuse me. And he's like, I don't want that." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay, give me a second. Let me figure this out. There's normally more than one." And then lo and behold, I discovered spinels. So if there are any August babies out there and you are assuming that your birthstone is peridot, you have another option, and spinels come in like every color.
Seriously, it's like the best, greatest addition to the August birthstone lineup. I love surprising people and going, wait, they're like, I hate my. In fact, I already know what birthstone people have. If they're like, oh, I have the ugliest birthstone. If I'm doing a trunk show and somebody comes to the counter, I'm like, let me guess, is your birthday in August? And they're like, yes. And I said, no, but wait, you have this. And do you like gray? Because the gray spinel is so
Yes.
moody and sexy. And then there's the red spinel. Yeah, so people get excited. That's such a great story though. And the fact I call it pea soup, not piss, but I may change my story.
So you are the first lady woman that I have had the honor of having on as a guest on my
Yeah.
podcast. What advice would you give to other women in the industry?
So much advice. Never stop trying. That's one thing. Don't be a victim would be another one. Your success is in your mindset and your drive. And this industry's changed so much since I've started, and I get frustrated. And okay, I'm going to give you a little small gripe session. Being a woman, I feel like I'm entitled to this, but people don't even get it what the industry was like 30 years ago. It was really male dominant. And I am not saying that as a put down to my men friends in industry. It wasn't viewed as a sexy industry, which is why women were less attracted to it. I mean, I've done a lot of thinking and discussion on this with my female friends, and it's the truth. Being a gem dealer definitely was not sexy then, and it was rough and dirty and scary sometimes. And that's why you don't see a lot of women gem dealers, because it's hard, and it's not as glamorous as it looks by video nowadays. I mean, there's a lot of ways to make something look a lot funner and prettier and sexier than it actually is. Thankfully, when I started, you weren't following each other around with a camera, and you weren't doing the selfies and with the Maasai warriors and all that stuff. There wasn't such a thing. So anyway, I think you just need to show up and keep trying. And that's how I've been successful. And I never, ever banged a female drum, honestly, because I knew I was making steps in a man's world as a dealer. And I had respect for that, because after I learned and went over there, I'm like, oh yeah, this is tough. But for me, it challenged me. There's some amazing females in this industry that have just they seem to be the most soft spoken, ironically. They're the ones that toot their horn the least and have done the most. But, and that's another thing I really appreciate in women, is just keep on keeping on, that kind of thing. We all need to support each other, supporting your fellow female women that you respect and that are doing the right thing. They're doing things with integrity and uplifting each other truly. Whether you agree exactly eye to eye or not, I think that those are the things to commend in a woman, businesswoman, and just being true to yourself. There's so many amazing women in this industry now. So that's where I was going with this, is when I started, there just weren't. And We're loaded with women on so many levels. I was one of the only gem dealers in AGTA, self-started. I mean, I know plenty of gem dealers that are amazing, but self-started. And there's so many more now. And it's so great to see. It makes me so happy. There's so many female cutters. There's so
Yeah.
many female bench workers that were not there. So many female designers and so many female jewelry store owners. I'm just like so proud. One of my challenges in AGTA was that truly there was the majority of our firm members are men. And it wasn't because women were being turned away. That wasn't it at all. It's because there just weren't a lot of women that wanted to start their businesses. And now there's a lot more, and you're seeing more show up, and it's so inspiring. And we have more females on the board than we've had since I've been on the board. And I've worked really hard to keep recruiting my female friends that I know would do a great job. So putting a hand out and bringing somebody else up with you is always a great thing. And yeah, you just got to keep trying and don't get knocked down, and don't victimize. If your door closes in your face, take those things and make yourself stronger.
Yeah.
I've gotten kicked in the teeth quite a bit in my early days. It made me tougher. It made me
Yeah.
appreciate what I'm doing, and it made me work harder. And I take all that to heart. And that's why I think I'm here. I never aspired to be a president of AGTA. I was brought up by my peers and asked to run. And here I am, past president now. And I've had so many amazing opportunities in this industry. It's a beautiful, beautiful industry, and it touches all areas of the world. And how
Yes.
lucky are we, right?
Right. Kimberly, that was a great answer. I just want to say that was a beautiful answer. That's why I got into the jewelry industry, was because I had a girlfriend of mine who knew me well enough. I was at the time in college prepping to go into nonprofit work. I had sort of geared up to exclusively have a nonprofit career. And she just looked at me and she goes, "I think you need to go work in jewelry." And I was like, okay, first of all, bold
Yeah.
for you to say, but she knew me well enough where she just said, it's artistic, it's diverse, there's people from all over the world, and it's communal, it's community, it's people to people, and I think you're going to thrive. And that went to the back of my mind. But then 6 months later, when COVID hit and I needed a job, I was like, all right, let's give it a try. And we've been here ever since.
Oh my God. That's amazing. That's such a good story. And you're so new in the industry, but you're paving your own path, and you're so open and interested. And I loved meeting you in Denver. You were my takeaway from my Denver show. I always think about like what the takeaway is and who I get to meet. And and Brady and I both really enjoyed meeting and talking with you and playing with the stones. You clearly love it like I do, and have an appreciation for gems and jewelry. And it's always fun connecting with people over that.
Yeah. And I was bummed I didn't go to Tucson this year. I saw you picked up Megan McGaffigan. I adore her and loved working
Yeah.
with her at her previous position, but I saw that you guys got to hang out and I was like, gosh, I'm so jealous.
You need to come hang out with us. She just left. She flew into Reno for 2 days this week, and we do great work when we're kind of off the grid and brainstorming and stuff like that. I feel so fortunate. Yeah, I'm building a really amazing team. It makes it fun. It makes it even more fun having the support. I've done a lot of the majority of my career has been on my own. So building a team and changing the structure and the look of what it is, it's very empowering and it's very exciting. So
That's wonderful. Yeah, I've just watched you almost explode over the last 2 years. I just felt like you have reached new heights, and congratulations to you. That's so wonderful. You talked a little bit about some of the changes that have happened in the industry. Do you want to talk about any of those, or things that have impacted you in your business for the better or worse?
Letting the jewelry tell a story. And storytelling, I think, is very important in sales, but I think the storytelling can go too far. I think when you have to create a story to sell a piece of jewelry, then there's something missing, because the jewelry, in my opinion, should be able to sell itself out of its beauty. And then the story, to me, is the icing on the cake. The story should not come before. It's not a gimmick to force somebody into buying a piece or guilt somebody into buying a piece. People buy jewelry because it's beautiful and they love it, and they want to adorn their body with it. It's great when it comes with another feel-good experience. It's benefited somebody in Brazil, or it's, truly, if you want to look at jewelry, every gold, every diamond in the jewelry, and every gemstone benefits somewhere across the globe. And every person that has put their hands on the piece of jewelry, every gem dealer that's brought it across the country, across the world, everybody has a part in this jewelry creation and making this special piece. And I don't believe we need to overly gum up the beauty and the romance of the stone when you have people that are already intrigued with the piece of jewelry. So I've seen the storytelling go way too far to the other end where somebody feels like they're guilty if they don't buy it because they're not helping this group of people or this group of people. The fact is, every piece of jewelry, whether it has a story with it or not, does benefit people across our globe. And so that's something I've kind of come to that's my opinion. That's my personal opinion. I know there's other people that have that opinion too, but I just think we always need to remind ourselves that what we're selling is something that's amazing and beautiful. When you're selling natural resources and materials, it's going to hold its value. It's going to be able to be passed down through a family. That's what I love about jewelry. I love the lineage of it, that I can give my pieces to my sons or my granddaughters. I'm hoping someday I have. And, that's the story I want to tell within my family. I think the people and the names of the people that mined my stones and made my ring, that's going to fall by the wayside in time. I mean, that's the truth. Let's be honest here. And yes, there's some amazing designers that go with the name on the jewelry and the origin of the emerald and all of that stuff. But the fact is, we adorn ourselves because it means something. It feels special on us, right? And to me, it's the legacy of the piece of jewelry that goes down through your family and that people appreciate through generations to come. So that's what resonates with me in my jewelry. Not everybody may agree with that. It's okay.
Well, and the fact that the jewelry lived a life with you. I've received heirloom pieces, and that's what's most magical to me. Not only is it beautiful and it feels so special, it lived a life with my grandmother and was a witness in a way to her experiences. And then I feel like I get to have, a part of that, a connection to that.
Yeah.
And that's what's really, really also very special. And that's why people buy and invest in these pieces to eventually pass down. I mean, it's part of a remembrance. It's a tradition.
Absolutely. I mean, those are my favorite stories truly in this industry is when, I can participate. I can be a participant in the legacy of something that's going to be passed through the generations. And I don't care if they remember who I am and that they got the stone from me. I appreciate the moment that I get to supply the gem or the piece of jewelry and be part of that. I think that's the special part. It is for me. Yeah.
Kimberly, what's next for you?
So I'm leveling up my work, my team. I want to take Kimberly Collins curated gemstones and fine jewelry to the next level. I'm actually getting ready to get on the plane at the end of the month and go to Sri Lanka. I'm going to do a buying trip. I haven't been back to Sri Lanka in quite a few years. I've done a lot of, I go to Asia on buying trips, Bangkok, Hong Kong. But going to Sri Lanka, I have an opportunity to go to some of the sapphire mines and see some people and go with some of my suppliers I've been working with forever. So I'm focusing on that. And I'm also focusing on my next level of designing. I'm always trying to figure out and think outside the box. What's next? What's inspiring to me? I'm excited.
I love it. I'm excited for you. One last question for you, if you don't mind. Who would you like to nominate as someone for me to interview later on in this podcast?
The torch. I have a few other female friends of mine that I'd say don't get the recognition that they really should because they're amazing. I'm going to tell you the first one is one of my mentors. Her name is Cynthia Renee Marcuson. Cynthia Renee has been a gem dealer. She also is a jewelry designer. She is extremely brilliant. She is a geologist. Is she geologist and gemologist? She could tell you that. But she is one of those women pioneers that went down in the mines before that was cool with the photo ops and the selfie. So she did that back in the day before there was a selfie stick. And wore the hard hat and it was very authentic. So I would love to nominate her only because my very first Tucson show, she knows this story, but in 1996, as I told you, I walked around the whole entire Tucson and she had her own booth there. And I was a newbie and I was definitely probably red all over me. I didn't have money to buy a lot of gems, but she took the time with me at her booth to talk to me and inspire me and ask me some questions about me, which I mean, it's just not that heard of. I may do that at my booth. She's taught me so many things over the years just about how I guess she and I think a lot alike, but she's just very inspiring. She's on the board of AGTA. She'd be a wonderful person to have on your show. So,
Awesome.
yeah, she's one of my
Wonderful.
inspirations and one of the first people in the industry I met, and the first woman really that gave me their time. I wanted to also mention Ann Barker. Her dad founded Barker and Company with AGTA. Ann has taken over that company and she is a silent warrior. I like to describe her like that because she's another mother of three daughters and she's amazing. She's our treasurer on AGTA and they have the most beautiful gems as well. I admire their entire case in Tucson and they're very colorful. They're very attention to cut. But she is a special person and very sweet, has a great heart. She knows so much more. She never toots her own horn. And I'd like to toot her horn for her just because I think she's amazing and she's an inspiration.
Oh, that's so good. That's
yeah.
so good. I love that. Kimberly, you're awesome. I love any chance I get to interact with you. You were very kind to have agreed to do this before it even ever launched, and you had no idea what you were getting yourself into. Thank you for having faith in me. I'm so excited to connect with you again in the future. Thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I loved meeting you. So when you called and talked to me about this, I didn't know what it was, but I said, sure, I'd be happy to do it. And you have such great energy and I admire you for taking the leap and doing something like this. It's interesting and hopefully the industry embraces it and takes a listen and follows along because you ask great questions. The conversation was just so natural and easy. You make it fun. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Kimberly. I
You're
appreciate you.
welcome.
Have a beautiful rest
I
of your day.
appreciate you too. Thank you so much. Okay, bye.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the beautiful, kind, lovely, smart, wonderful Kimberly Collins. Kimberly, thank you so much for your time. You can find Kimberly on Instagram at Kimberly Collins Gems, or you can shop her jewelry line, kimberlycollinsgems.com, or if you are a wholesaler or someone who qualifies for the trade, you can go and connect with her directly and set up an account. Kimberly, you're awesome. You're welcome on this podcast anytime. Have a beautiful rest of your day wherever you are in the world. Thank you for listening.